say blame Congress. After tonight's job speech, President Obama is said to be launching a months-long campaign to try and put new pressure on Republicans on the Hill to either work with Democrats and create jobs or take the blame for what they call inaction. That's to Senator John Cornyn, Republican on Senate Budget Committee. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning, Bill.
How do you react to the president says Congress is the problem, and Republicans specifically?
Well, the president's policies during the first 2 years of his presidency have not only been ineffective in dealing with the problem of high joblessness and trying to get people back to work, they've actually made things worse. And so more of the same is simply not an option. We need to help settle down the job creators by reassuring them that we're going to deal responsibly with the debt by cutting spending. We're not going to yield to high inflation or even deflation, and give them some predictability by long-term growth programs rather than quick feel-good fixes.
Well, what about a Jobs Act that'll cost $400 billion that will be paid for, is the word we're getting from the White House. Would you support that on the surface?
Well, the problem is I'd like to look at the details, but what I'm a little leery about is, of course, what he would pay for it with. If he's talking about raising taxes on the very people we're depending on to create those jobs, small businesses, I don't see how that's going to work, and I wouldn't support it.
Will any of this go anywhere then?
Well, we'll hear what the president has to say. We'll be sitting there respectfully and listen to him, but you know, the truth is, if all he was going to do is to say, let's do more of what we've done in the past, which we all know has not been effective, I'm not sure what the purpose of a joint session of Congress is. Instead of having a joint session of Congress and making a nationally televised speech, he could have just picked up the telephone and worked quietly with leaders in the Congress to try to solve the problem. We would be happy to try to work with him.
Perhaps he is doing that also, and you'd have to assume that that is the case. What do you think the fact that this speech is sandwiched between a debate last night and a football game tonight? And it happens at 7 o'clock, which airs at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in Sacramento, California, a state that is deeper in debt than any other state in this country.
Well, I think there's time enough for everything, and I regret that there was this confusion over scheduling the president's speech. I know the American people are interested in hearing what his suggestions are. I hope he has some new ones and not the same old rehashed ones, but there's time enough for everything.
We're just getting word, Senator, through Chad Pergram, our Fox News producer on the Hill. Michelle Bachmann will now give a response to the president at 8:30 tonight. That is news to us because we had been under the impression that there would be no official Republican response. Just on the surface, your reaction to that as we get that news?
Well, I don't know whether Congresswoman Bachmann's response will be an official Republican response. Maybe it'll just be her own response. I think you'll be hearing from a lot of members of Congress what their reaction is to the president's speech. Probably none of them official, probably all of them individual views.
Just to be clear on that, you're saying this could be coming from her office, something I cannot determine just yet, but I'll try and nail this down for you. Or perhaps she was invited by the speaker. Is it A or is it B?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that, Bill. I guess we'll just have to wait and find out.
Okay, and we will find out together. You will attend, some of your colleagues will not. What do you think about their decision to skip it?
Well, I think we owe it to the office of the president to listen to his views. I hope he has some new ideas, and they're not simply the same old ideas that we know have been not only ineffective, but which have raised the debt by some $4 trillion. And that's created a lot of uncertainty in the private sector by the very people we're depending upon to create new jobs. So his policies in the past have not only been ineffective, they've actually made things worse. And what we need are new ideas and new suggestions, and I'm going to be there listening for what he has to say.
On that specific issue about job creation, we asked about that in our Fox poll. Here's what we found. 45% say, does the Obama administration know how to encourage job creation? They say it's a pretty good idea. 42% say has no idea. You come in the former or the latter category there, Senator?
Well, I think the president is a little bit out of ammunition. I don't think he frankly knows exactly what to do if he's going to propose more stimulus and more debt. and higher taxes on the people we're depending on for job creation. So I'm going to wait and listen to what he has to say, but I frankly am starting to believe that he really doesn't understand what the private sector needs in order to create jobs. We don't need more government jobs. We need the private sector to grow the economy and create jobs, and frankly, they're a little worried about what the policies are.
7 o'clock in Washington tonight. Senator, thank you. I want to clarify, Bachmann will hold a press conference at 8:30. And we're working for more information on that. John Cornyn, thank you, out of Texas. You can watch all of it later tonight here on the Fox News Channel. It airs at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Your host tonight, Shepard Smith.